Alrighty. So, as you can see here, I have really wonkified the pose here as I've been doing weight painting and testing. And now I figure it is time to teach you guys about the second tool we have here in our arsenal for weight paint. I've been using mostly the draw tool to both draw and erase paint, but right now we're going to focus on the blur tool, which I find very, very useful for situations like this one right here. You notice it's a little janky in the elbow here. It was actually the same way over here, but if you noticed, I've decently smoothed it out on this side. So we are going to use the blur tool to fix this. Obviously, based off of how our jacket is oriented, this is the left side that we're looking at. So we are going to be going into our arm low S, and I'm actually going to be removing some of the weight paint in this region, mostly because this is actually the arm 2 bone, arm low 2, so we really don't need quite as much up there. But to make sure that our transition is smooth, we're going to blur the edge of this paint. If you notice, it's already making an effect on the shade to give it a smoother look. We're going to do the same thing here. Remove paint here. But sharp edge, bad. So we're just going to, that's still my draw tool. We are just going to smooth this out using our blur tool, and you'll start noticing that we're gonna end up with a nicer, smoother effect. Sometimes you have to click a little bit to get it to really do effect, but if you notice, we now have a much nicer crease here at the elbow than we had before. And if we do the same thing when we get to our arm up 3 and kind of just mess with the blur around here, you get a softer effect around this region. In general, anytime you notice there's a transition in your weight paint that's just a little too harsh, that's where you're going to want to use your blur tool. I find it indispensable, especially when working with clothing mods, just because cloth is, it stretches, it moves with the body. Whoop. That is one of the problems that this perspective does do. Sometimes it jumps the camera around. Even here, you don't have as much stretching here as you do here. So we're gonna go into our shoulder and where's that arm up? We're going to just smooth out the paint here. And already you notice that with some of these vertices moving a little bit closer to where the bone is, you get a nicer effect. And we're gonna make sure that we are doing some of the same things to the other side. Especially with this arm up 1, you don't want to do too much in the armpit area, just because sometimes it'll clip through and you'll see the body. Another thing you'll notice is that I've actually scaled down the chest bones here. Most of the time, you'll be testing your weight paint with the bones scaled up. Now, I mean, that's nice and all, but this particular mesh that I'm working on is actually made for more flat-chested characters, so one of the things that I'm going to do is pretty much just make sure that it's behaving properly when you have flatter characters. A lot of that will involve smoothing the paint out, because you get these weird wonky bits that are like jutting out. We don't want that. That doesn't look pretty. Our Mune bones, by the way, are our chest bones, as it were. They're where most of the magic happens when it comes to anything involving the chest. Which, I mean, if you've been part of the HS community for as long as I have, you can figure out people really, really big into the whole chest thing. They like them girls thick. But already you can see some places where the transition is now just getting a little bit more smooth and less jagged as we smooth out our regions here. There's another place where we need to adjust our weight paint. Anytime you notice that there's a great jump in color, that's usually where you're gonna have some of your issues with weight paint being jagged. Another cool trick that you can do, however, is if you go into edit mode, we are going to go to our armature and make sure that both of these other two options that start out unclicked are going to be clicked. In any case, we can go into edit mode and click on an individual vertex, and it will actually show us all of the influences here in our end menu under item. We can show the influences of each individual bone. Now, we actually want to keep the influences kind of to a bit of a minimum. I want to say Unity can only handle 4 influences on a particular vertex at a particular point. So, if you notice, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We're good! But in general, you know, it's just something that you're going to want to watch out. Now, I used this to incredible effect when it came to the gloves, because when you're weight painting gloves, one of the things that will happen is that the fingers will end up cross weight painting. So you'll have parts of your index finger attached to your middle finger, and you can actually use this particular screen to delete the unneeded weight paint entirely just by pressing the X button. It also helps, especially if you're doing in between the thighs on pants, which will especially happen on male figures. For whatever reason, I find that when I'm doing male modding, the weight paint between the thighs jumps around. The thighs are just really, really close together in the default pose. So anytime you get multiple bones really, really close together, you're gonna have that weight paint jump effect. I'm going to take a pause from recording again and work on this a little bit more, and I'll be back with you guys later.